we want to live out west, maybe down south. It's just parents.
Yeah.
We're both from Detroit. Parents are not getting any younger, so kids are being born every day. So just a matter of being near family and whatnot. You know what I mean? But like we'll probably be snowbirds soon enough.
That's what, hey, totally get it. Totally get it. I've got most of my family's down here. I would say some of them are in North Carolina. I've got family in New York. Don't go and see them very often. Also just because of the whole last year, man, right? Like, haven't
Right.
had any chance. I'd love to go to New York though. It's on my bucket list to like experience living in the big city of like New York, Los Angeles, maybe Houston, but more so like Denver, Colorado. I feel like I want to kind of like bounce around to those cities. Yeah.
Yeah, like we were kind of the opposite because we spent so long in Chicago. Like I was in Chicago for 7 years,
Yeah.
and Chicago's not New York by any means or LA, but it's close enough. I mean, especially compared to New York, just because it is kind of like a concrete jungle, right? You do kind of get
Yeah.
locked in it, and with Chicago specifically, there's no nature to speak of. I mean, you got Lakeshore Drive, but it's not quite scratching the itch. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, but LA's great. LA's got an energy to it that I'm sure you would fit in very, very well with. But it's LA. It's always going to be LA, and yeah, it's a different place.
Yeah, yeah. I actually just went to visit for the first time a few weeks ago, and it was cool. You had like a real interesting dichotomy of like wealth and poverty. I kind of saw a lot of remnants of like Burning Man culture and Burning Man energy when I went to that festival. And I don't know, it just kind of struck me as like, you could have an interesting social circle in LA. You can have
Yeah.
some type of friends, kind of like from all walks of life. It's like a Jurassic Park crew. Like you don't know what dinosaur's coming out next.
Yeah, no, very much so. I mean, it's yeah. A lot of the criticisms about LA, I would say, we only spent a couple months there, right? But like a lot of the criticisms about LA, like are fairly true.
Yeah,
About the people there and whatnot, and like the conversations that they have, and like the status climbing that's there. But like it's not like that doesn't exist other places. People just wear it a little bit more on their sleeve in LA than they might in New York or Chicago or whatever it may be. But like
yeah,
it's you cannot beat the weather. Like it makes a difference when you wake up every morning and it's just sunny and beautiful and like not a cloud in the sky. It makes a difference. Like I'm sure there's some people out there that don't, not even necessarily like with seasonal depression or like, but that don't, their mood isn't as impacted by the weather. I'm sure those people exist. I'm not one of them. You know what I mean? Like if it's sunny and 70 every day, I'm having a good day no matter what, right?
Oh,
So
100%. And
yeah,
that's why I love living in Florida. It is usually always sunny. And the energy from just the whole alchemical process of like being in the sun, I make it a ritual actually to go every morning running outside. So after the gym, quick take my shirt off really quick just to get like as much sun exposure as I can. Because I don't know, like you and I kind of, we're always inside, usually working and on the computer, right? And being up in Michigan, man, like, that's tough. You guys are like, man, how much sun do you really get up there in Michigan?
how much? How much? Not much at all. I mean, we got a south facing window here, so we get some sun during the day, but it's
Yeah,
it's not it's not it's not much, right? Like so like that's part of the reason that, and I'm sure we'll get into it later, but like that I end up going down this path of self-employment rather than like having a crazy schedule at some corporation every day, is because I wanted to be able to look outside and be like, it's gorgeous outside. I'm going mountain biking. Like no one's gonna stop me. I'm mountain biking, right? But you just got to catch the rays when they're out. It's not every day. It's not even very often, but it's not that bad either. Like it's
yeah,
just more overcast than like you would ever want it to be.
yeah.
So
I'd love to actually jump on that thread. I think, we're coming out of the year of COVID, and there might be a listener who's maybe on the fence about starting a company, or maybe, an entrepreneur that's already taken the risk and the leap. So how did that start for you? And, now that you've made that transition to self-employment, I know that we actually met on Upwork, right? I reached out to you because I was looking for sales consulting, sales framework and sales process kind of engineering. And I just really felt that your profile stood out. I think the way you highlighted your experience, your just the way you mentioned some accolades. I can't actually remember all of them right now. But everything, it just came across as, wow, okay, like this guy knows what he's talking about. And yeah, we had a really valuable, just kind of like quick intro call even, right? Just to kick things off. And then I was like, yeah, this guy's I want to work with you. And then you even helped connect me to the guy that's kind of now our CFO, right?
Really?
Yeah. Nice. So yeah, Robert is, he always helps with anything kind of Excel related, and has really helped a lot our company.
He's a wizard. He's a wizard.
He's a wizard, man.
It really is. Like, I don't understand. There's such a limitation in my brain. Like I'm good with software, like good with different platforms here and there. Like I've been using Excel my whole life, but there's a limitation of like, I want to see something, but I don't even know how to Google it. He just does it. It's just done, but before you're done thinking about it, he's a wizard.
Yeah, he is. So here, tell me about like how you made that pivot, how long ago, and if you want to kind of describe like your background maybe, and a little bit of the sales consulting, company and work that you guys are doing.
Yeah, sure. So I mean, I'll go from the beginning. Then I've pretty much been in sales my whole life. Like from a young kid, like I started caddying when I was in middle school. And if you know anything about like working at a country club, it's all sales. I mean, you're not selling anything, but you're trying to make a tip at the end of the day. So it's just all about schmoozing and talking and making sure that somebody gets the best experience they can while they're out on the course, right? So I did that for about 10 years, but went into retail sales a little bit, then went into college, got a degree in sales. And it was from like a school that doesn't, most schools have like a marketing major. And inside the marketing major, they'll have like a sales class, maybe an inside or an outside sales management, maybe something like that. This wasn't like that. This was sales through and through. It was every day felt like a boot camp with some of these professors. It was very specialized in actual sales, which is important later in the story, right? So got a very good background, like academic sales. And the reason I went into sales is because I like talking to people. I like persuasion in general, like psychology is of interest to me. But I'm also competitive, and more than anything, especially at that time in life, I was driven by money. And I like the idea of, oh, you work harder, you get paid more. Like that, who doesn't like that idea, right? So
exactly.
That's kind of what drew me to sales. Got a degree in it. Ended up going into logistics out of college. Became a freight broker, and I went into this company that was growing pretty quickly already. It was around $100 million company when I started there. By the time, I think it was around 2015, 2016, so about 5-6 years after I got there, they sold for about $2.5 billion. So from 100 million to $2.5 billion in a few years. There's a couple of years that they were growing like over 1,000%, right? Just hiring people, hire like 10 to 20 people every 2 weeks or so.
And so the freight shipping business, just so can you clarify kind of like how that business model?
Yeah, of course. So it differs depending on who you are in the industry, right? But for us, for like a 3PL, third-party logistics company, or for us, we're a non-asset-based brokerage. I mean, we brokered freight, but we didn't have trucks that we put it on our own. We're not a Swift or a JB Hunt. We didn't have our own trucks. We just brokered the freight. We brought it in from customers. Customers being people like Coca-Cola, Heineken, FEMA, Department of Defense. Brought in freight from them and then brokered it out to a trucking company or a carrier, and they're the ones that actually did the hauling. So as a freight broker, we were separated into two different sides. There's a customer side, the people that actually acquire that freight, build those connections with those customers, bring in the freight, and then put it on the board and pray everything goes well. What I did was I managed the carrier side. So I managed finding people, trustworthy people to run the freight, making sure that the customers' needs were taken care of once they actually came over. That was later in my role when I started managing things, but kind of went from the bottom there as just a normal account manager. I started, it was a lead for a little while. I started leading like the Northeast, just kind of my specialty. Then it
Yeah.
was, I think, everything east of the Mississippi, and then it was the whole country. Then I was managing all of North America for specialized freight specifically. So
Very cool.
specialized was anything that's doesn't fit into a dry van, nothing that's refrigerated, but it's big, awkward, heavy. So anytime you see something that's a couple 100,000 pounds going on the street, like it, it takes even more effort to get those things rolling than you might think. And
Yeah.
if we have time, I've got some great stories about that. But yeah, like heavy
That's
haul,
awesome.
oversized stuff. I mean, anything big, wide, ugly, we would take care of that. So managing the specialized division for most of the country,
Yeah.
upwards. My team was usually around like anywhere between like 10 to 20 reps, but then the division as a whole was around 90 reps. And just kind of overseeing everything and making sure everything was going all right.
Yeah.
Making sure we were taking care of our goals and whatnot. So um, that did that help
Yeah, yeah. So
describe?
this is like a pivotal experience kind of in your sales growth, right? I mean, can you look back? Is there any type of piece of wisdom or like a lesson learned or something that you really integrated from that experience being a part of that freight shipping business?
Yeah, I mean that conversation alone could take up the next hour. But yeah, I learned a lot. I mean, especially being young and dumb and being in sales. The thing about logistics is that it's not your classic sales environment where you're doing these appointments and meetings and doing presentations and proposals. On the customer side, to some extent, it is, but what you get out of logistics that you don't get out of really almost anything else, sales wise, is volume. You get an insanely high amount of volume, meaning that you're dealing with, on any given day. When I was in sales, I mean, we sell anywhere between 10 to 20 loads per day. Each one's between $1,000 to $5,000 or so. I mean, we're talking about volumes of upwards of 100K a day in
Every
revenue.
day
Yeah,
for just
yeah.
yourself or each sales rep on the
Just
team.
for each sales rep, for the bigger sales reps, it could be
Wow.
even more. I mean, when we were doing like UPS holiday freight, for instance, when
Yeah.
like package holiday packages shipping, those numbers would go to much higher numbers, and we would be
Hmm.
doing upwards of 1 million a day
Yeah.
for each rep, if you were involved with that type of freight, which we were. So it the volume is insane, and so with that volume, you get to deal with a lot more issues. You get to deal with a lot more problems, right? And in sales, you really don't get much better when you win. You
Hmm.
get a lot better at sales when you lose and when you have
Wow.
things go
Yeah.
wrong. Because it like issue resolution became one of the strongest, one of the biggest strengths you could have in logistics and in sales too. Because if you get derailed by issues, you're not focusing on selling. And sales is something where prospecting especially, but sales in general, like if you don't do it every day, if you don't commit a certain amount of time to it every day, and you let distractions or issues derail you, you won't sell. You won't sell consistently. You're not going to have a predictable revenue model. Nothing will be consistent, and it's going to be all feast or all famine. And it's just that's not a good way to go about sales. So, um, I would
So
say
you're
the
really
thing
like
that
a bottom up type of perspective. So when you're consulting with a sales company or when you're looking at a sales process, you're trying to find all of the negatives. Where are the holes? What are the client objections? Really listing all those out. And does the client or company or sales rep have the prepared material to navigate that issue resolution path?
Yeah, exactly. Right. I mean, it becomes only about spotting the issues, kind of a red team thing if you're familiar with it. But like,
Hmm.
just you're not going to grow from just pointing out where you did well and everything. I'll do that when I do like one-on-ones and when we're consulting with clients. Like they're doing something very well. Yeah, I'll point it out, but we're going to spend 99% of our time looking at what they're doing wrong. And trying to make some sort of growth out of it, right? So, especially when it comes to like resolving these issues that people aren't really seeing as something that's really making an impact on their bottom line. And so we like our go by IRC Sales Solutions right now, but IRC, it stands for the Issue Resolution Company, which is a really silly name, but it is it helps remind me what we're here for, right? Like we're not here to just reinvent the wheel with every company. We don't really need to do that. What we need to do is take apart some of the issues that are really holding people back, and then start growing into molding it into something that can be a sustainable sales organization.
Wow. So jumping on that thought, I do have a question, and maybe there's some people out there that can relate. Is when you have a sales team, you've got high performers, medium performers, and low performers. How do you approach empowering the low or medium performers to become high performers? And really, if you even want to get into the process, I'm curious about like the high performing mindset when it comes to sales, the frame, the belief system, the person, like kind of their ethos even.
Yeah, well, that's a good question. I mean, I think more than just about any role that I can think of. There's people that are just absolutely born with it. They're just born with it, and they've got it. Whatever it is, they have it, right? And I was one of those people. Like from the very moment I started in sales, like all I wanted to do was succeed and beat every single person around me.
Yeah.
Not like in a violent way, but like I wanted to see myself as number one and other people as number two, and I wanted to make more money than them, right? So that, like, if people have that quality, it's a different type of coaching, right? But if people don't have that quality, or they're not as sure of themselves, like if they didn't have a background in sales or whatever it may be, right? Like there's oftentimes a mindset of, some people have a more of a lazy one, right? Where it's in between phone calls, they're going to do whatever they can do to not make phone calls, right? Other people, as I was saying, are a little bit more reluctant because they're not as sure of themselves, they're not as confident. No matter what, though, as a sales manager, when it comes to really bringing the best out of reps, the best thing you can do is just like really, really, really be there for them and be their support more than anything. That's what I got a lot of that from like mentors in my past, like from sales managers that I really respected. And the more you really like absolutely like ride or die for people, the more they're willing to stick their neck out, and the more they're willing to be a little bit more uncomfortable, right? Like with the way that they're going about a phone call, and maybe trying something new that day. If you kind of just exist and you disappear into the shadows, and when something goes down, you're not really there to fight for your reps. Like those reps, they end up giving up, and it happens almost every time. And they really need. Again, I'm not talking about the people that are born for it. Those guys are going to be lone wolves. They're going to do whatever they do, and they're going to succeed. But the people that aren't necessarily born with that, and maybe they do have a sales background, maybe they don't have a sales background, maybe they have like a degree in sales. I mean, I've seen it with everybody, right? Like I've seen an art history major blow the brakes off of a sales major in sales. Like it just depends on who you are. But the more as a manager, the more that you really try to support people and help them work through things, and really be not just a friend. Like I don't really like that word here, because you're not. Like if somebody doesn't perform well because they're not trying hard enough, like I'll be the first person to light them up, right? You need to be more of a coach than a friend. But in that regard, like people aren't going to respect a coach that doesn't go out, like put himself out there, and who doesn't, take risks and really fight for his team. So I think hopefully that answers your question.
Can you give some examples of how a high-performing coach manages some of those sales reps and those team members? Like what, kind of like the structure? Is it weekly check-ins, daily check-ins, like a post at the end of the day, somebody on the company team doing like a coach review, or like a evaluation of the day, or like jumping in on calls? Is it like being in on the call at the same time? Is it doing a call review? How does that structure or framework look to really help them?
Yeah, it helps to be on the call, but more than anything, it's being available when they need you, right? And they might not always come to you when that is, right? But like if you know that they have a big call with somebody, you call them right after and see what happened. If they're happy about it, great. Talk to them about it. Figure out what happened. If they're not happy about it, that's when that kind of almost like a friend mentality needs to come in, and you need to get it out of them, Like it's not, we need to find out what happened. We need to talk about it. We need to reflect on it. Because if we don't reflect on it in this moment and you forget about it, it's going to happen next week again. It's going to keep happening.
Yeah.
If something bad happens, we really need to talk about why that happened, reflect on it, make sure it doesn't happen again, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's difficult nowadays because the way that like my management style back in the day back in the day, what I mean by that is when we were in offices, right? It's a little bit different, and just when you could just yell over like across the desk at somebody and you were always there listening to them and picking up on the things that they were saying on calls, go just walk over to somebody and be like, don't say that. We don't do that here, but being there and telling them like, hey, I'm telling you not to say that, not because I'm trying to be rude, but because I want you to succeed here. Like I'll be the first person to tell you you're doing the wrong thing. Nowadays in a remote atmosphere, it's a little bit more difficult.
How do you take that challenge on today?
It's tough to adapt to sales nowadays because it's difficult to have those same conversations over Slack that we're having face to face. Slack is great and everything, but it's not the same typing into a keyboard as talking to somebody face to face, and you just don't have the same impact from it, right? But at the end of the day, like it is important to still have those like daily check-ins, weekly pipeline review meetings. Those make a very big impact. Just talking about, okay, what are you doing with this deal? What's going on with this deal? Why is this still sitting in this stage? Why hasn't it moved on or out of the pipeline? Like, what's going on? If there needs to be some sort of action, right? Just time kills all deals. So if you're just going to sit and tell me you can't get a hold of the guy, how hard are you trying? Are you trying to call anybody else? Are you sending him an email, send him a letter? Show up at his door for all I care. But you got to try. We can't have deals sitting in the same pipeline or sitting in the same stage. So having weekly pipeline reviews, but then talking to them every day, whether it's on the phone, the email, and talking about what happened during their day, so that you can start reflecting on it. If you don't reflect on it, you're not going to grow.
Wow, that's a great statement right there. So one thing I see as a challenge is with the move to remote technology, Salesforce. It's almost as if what we're missing, at least in HubSpot, is an ability to see we have a meta tag system, and this meta tag system on the contacts, we want to be able to see what activities are being done for these contacts or each of their kind of like conversion tracking. And I feel like what would help at least our company, or I think maybe other companies, and you have to decide is like what level of scrutiny and like what level of like self-tracking are you going to impose on your sales reps, so that you're able to record every single action that they're doing, so you're really able to see into it. Because there's almost like transparency is, I think, one of your principles to have an effective sales process. But if you put so much effort, or you require your sales reps to be so methodical in tracking and recording, do you think that that's the right thing to do, or that you should like get them as methodical as possible? Or is there a fine line with like, hey, you know what, you do maybe need to step off a little bit, give them more like higher level goals, and use whatever transparency does kind of provide, because there's still like email reporting, call reporting, and task reporting, but it's not to like a granularity of like the types of contacts, because there's very different meta tags that I think companies use for their conversion tracking.
Yeah, my rule has always been, if it's not in the CRM, that it didn't happen, and it's a mantra of mine. The thing is that you're right. Like, to a certain extent, if you just require it, you're not going to win many favors with that. Just requiring it, right? Because I've been there, done that. Like, it's just a pain. It's just, I don't want to do it. Let me make more phone calls. I don't want to. It takes time to record everything, right? Okay, but that's the wrong way to do it. Like the way that it needs to be pulled off is that technology. It needs to be helping them every step of the way. It needs to be so that every time they're recording something in the CRM, they're rewarded for recording it, right? Maybe not directly, but for instance, like when the most basic principle here, which I'm sure you're familiar with, is like follow-ups. Okay, so follow-ups are one of the most important things in sales. If you don't follow up, you're not going to sell it. nearly
Yeah.
anything.
Follow up
You'll
or
reach.
die is a
Yeah.
mantra that I had.
Exactly. You'll maybe hit like 1% of the sales you would hit otherwise. So
Right.
following up is important. We know that, but how do we make sure that it happens? Well, you perform actions in the CRM. Like HubSpot, you send an email or you save a note or you save a call, um, you save like a call notes or whatever, and it'll ask you right then and there, like when should we follow up? A week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, a month, two
Hmm.
months, like select a custom day, whatever, right? So by doing that, by logging the call notes in the CRM, it's impossibly easy to just then set a reminder, right? So then we get the reps to set a reminder, a task to follow up, because we just told them, I mean, yeah, you want to sell 99% more, do follow-ups. Okay, but you're not going to remember them on your own. You're not going to remember them with sticky notes, Excel spreadsheet, calendar. It won't work, right?
Yeah.
So
Well.
you have to do it in the CRM. So record your call notes in the CRM. That will help you follow up. That'll help you sell more, right? So that's kind of
Right.
like the string that we go through. But then make it even more even easier for them to do it, right? So now 2 weeks later, when it's time to follow up, they get an email, or hopefully not an email if they're living in the CRM every day, but we'll get a task that pops up and says, hey, you need to follow up so and so, and we'll plug in an email template, the actual template that they should be using to follow up, which they might want to edit, they might not want to send off as is, they might want to put in some custom notes in there, but not only are they being told, hey, this is the day and time that you need to follow up, but here's an email that we think that you should use to follow up too. So we make it so easy that it's just it's you cannot look at me in the eyes and tell me that the CRM is costing you more time than it's saving. We know it's saving you more time. So it's more of a simple example, but
Okay.
the
So you
the
almost
more
like kind of weigh the
yeah
leverage of the technology and how much time it saves. And so if you do ask some additional points of tracking, it's like, hey, the CRM provides email templates and then we string those together to form a sequence. We've got workflow automations that can, easily maybe either send text messages or, make some tag changes or reminders. And then reminders is, I think a big feature in HubSpot, Salesforce, the other CRMs. So I think that does kind of make a little bit more sense actually if you kind of position it like that.
right, yeah, I mean you have to have it be something that really does reward people for using it, and with
Yeah.
CRMs nowadays, that's a lot easier than it was a few years ago, right? Because a lot of the CRMs, like even 5 years ago or so, they were not all that user friendly, and they didn't do what they can do nowadays, like with their eyes closed, so to speak,
Hmm.
right? I mean, it's unreal what the technology can provide today, but it's a matter of setting it all up so that it actually supports the sales reps rather than just being a burden. Because if it's going to be a burden, the sales reps are not going to use it, no matter what your mantra is.
Yeah.
If they're not getting anything out of it, they're not going to use it. It just won't happen, right? So
Yeah.
it doesn't matter how much you pay them; they'll find ways to not do it, right? So
Right.
you gotta give back to them actually recording everything in the CRM, and then it becomes like second nature.
Hmm. What are the systems or technologies that you see as being the best and best? Because I think they have accelerated. I think there's a huge competition among CRMs. Everybody's creating some type of off version of Salesforce and HubSpot. Um, what recommendations or tools do you find being the best to boost productivity for sales teams today?
It really depends on what type of team you have. I think that and what your budget is, because like for instance, if
Yeah.
you're willing to spend $1,200 a month, HubSpot's enterprise plan is great, but
Yeah.
that's a lot of money. So I get it if you don't want to spend that much, right?
I
I
will
think
say for anybody, the startup plan, we were able to get the 90% off for like the first year, and then some COVID discounts also stacked for like 3 years using HubSpot. So if you can get into like
yeah.
an accelerator of some sort, that helped us.
Yeah, they're pretty good with that. Um, but yeah, I would say that my favorite technology, and what I think is hopefully going to be growing and growing and growing and be more of an impact for everybody is these no code automations like Zapier. I mean,
Hmm.
they are just a whole nother level, right? I mean, it's not really even a sales technology by any means. It's just something that helps integrate platforms to each other, right? I mean, we can do things that clients like they think it's magic, and it's really like, no, we did that for the first time. Actually, it just Zapier made it that easy, right? Like
Yeah.
it allows normal people like you and I to do automations and integrations between things that just they aren't normally able to communicate, right? And like you'll see a lot of companies like advertising like integrations, like, oh, we have 230 plus integrations and counting. Yeah, they do, but like they're usually oversold, right? But with something like Zapier, it's since you're building it yourself, and it's a pretty simple process to follow each and every time. I mean, it can make your life so much easier just by taking out all those small things, right? And that's like something that I was kind of getting at earlier, but that like the more time you spend in sales doing all this other nonsense, like the less money you're gonna make. And it's that simple. Like it's so cliche to say that time is money, but it is unequivocally. Like end of story. It really is. So if you're spending a good amount of your time, I can't remember what the exact statistic is nowadays, but it's like I think sales reps spend like 60% of their time selling, 50%, something like that. It's like half their time. The other time is spent doing operational administrative tasks that are just sucking the life out of them. I mean, they're not getting anything done during those hours. And that's really the story of how I got into consulting and why I left sales in the first place. Was I had a company that had stopped believing in making sales reps' lives about sales. Maybe you can handle accounting too. Maybe you can handle incident resolution. Maybe you can handle operations and all that. And I thought I was here to sell, right?
So everybody becoming like multifaceted, and I know we've spoken about that, right? You're a big advocate for getting salespeople laser pointed on selling.
Absolutely. Just if you try to be in a million different areas, you're not going to get anything done in the tough one, which is sales. Like if you're having a bad day sales wise, I'm gonna go do accounting or something so I don't have to go get rejected anymore. Like you don't want to have that easy out, right? In a world full of, this is one of my favorite quotes, in a world full of distractions, single tasking is a superpower. It's a superpower. And so if you're able to just do that one thing all day, and I'm one of the most ADD people out there. Everybody in my entire family is ADD. And it's a daily struggle for me as is, right? But in sales, like if you're saying, okay, well, we need you to do this. Oh yeah, and sell enough to keep the lights on too. It's not a good task. You're not setting people up for success. So the more you're able to automate and outsource and just get things off people's plate, the more successful they'll be in sales, because you can essentially just set them right at the starting grid and just say, go 100 miles per hour.
So you're saying the mindset of the high performers or a high performing business, their sales force, their sales teams, they are just calling and basically doing cold calling, and then the follow-ups and closing of a deal to be able to then kind of hand off to like an account manager or some customer success engineer. Is that can you describe kind of like the absolute most elite present day like structure for how to manage your sales team?
Yeah, I don't think that there is one, but one that I like to talk about a lot is the predictable revenue model. It's the assembly line is what it's called. And with that, like, I don't know if this is technically part of the teachings or not, but there's like kind of an 80-20 rule, which is that if there's anything that your sales reps are spending 20% or more of their time on, you need to get that task, remove it from their plate, and get another rep to do it. You need to put somebody in place to handle that from now on. So
interesting.
So with the assembly line, I mean, this is just the name alone, right? It immediately starts to make sense. I mean, this is what the Industrial Revolution was built on, right? So you have specialists in every category. I think this is what you're doing at your company too. But you have specialists in each category. And it's sometimes 4 steps, sometimes 3. So if you do 4 steps, it would be lead generation reps would be the first group. That could be inbound leads too, whatever. The second is going to be like your SDRs, your appointment setters.
Your sales development rep at
Yes,
SDR.
yeah. People that are qualifying for the most part, depending on your business model, if qualifying is a big thing or not. But qualifying and setting appointments with interested leads. After that second group of reps, you've got the account executives, the closers, so to speak, right? And these are people that all they do is sign deals, right? They get the interest leads kind of passed off to them from the SDRs, and then they just kind of handle it until the client signs. From there, they pass it on to a customer success team, somebody, or account managers, people that are responsible for really making sure that the customer is successful once they are signed, because that just enables that flywheel. So they start telling all their friends about it, and obviously you want people to be happy once they sign with you anyway. But
Absolutely.
That's really a well-oiled machine, because you have every rep is very specialized in what they're doing. If they're doing the same repeatable tasks on a day-to-day basis, they're getting a lot better at it a lot quicker. Meanwhile, if 5% of your day is broken up to do task A, and then the other 5% task B, and then the other 5% task C, you're gonna get okay at doing 20 different tasks, but you're not going to be great at any of them. So when you do specialization like this, again, with an assembly line approach, like you get very, very good at prospecting. You get very, very good at lead generation. You get very, very good at closing, because those are the only conversations that you need to have. So you're getting better at each one of them, and it's very scalable inherently, because all you need to do is plug somebody in. If you want more capacity, you want more leads, okay, send somebody to lead generation. You got too many leads coming in, okay, send somebody into SDR or as a AE. Like it's so easy. It's very easy also to spot problems and fix them. If you're able to track conversion rates so easily, and you're able to see, well, okay, we're not getting enough leads. We need somebody else in lead generation, or we need to maybe train the people in lead generation better, or we're not getting enough appointments set for our closers. Okay, so let's look at the SDR group. Can we train them better? Should we do more coaching with them? It's very simple to look at the assembly line and see where the problem is occurring, and then you can fix it. With sales, nothing's ever going to be perfect ever at any time. Doesn't matter how much you pay a sales consultant. I'll be the first person to tell you that. It's never going to be perfect, right?
Yeah. It's always iterative. You're always working on it, getting it better. Rework.
You need to set something up. You need to watch it. Then you need to improve upon it, and that process is going to repeat until the day you die, right? So you always have to keep improving upon things. But with the assembly line, it makes it very easy to do that. It also makes it the name of the book, obviously, predictable revenue. It makes it so that your revenue is a little bit more predictable, because it's what this group of guys is going to do. You know what that group of people is going to do. You know what their conversion rates are from quarter to quarter, year to year. And it's just it's simple. I mean, again, the Industrial Revolution, McDonald's, like they've all used this assembly line. It works for a reason, right? So that's probably one of the better ones out there. There's some other ones too, but I think that's pretty much the leader right now. It's a little bit more difficult for smaller companies, which we work with a lot of too, like startups that have like, hey, well, we've got a bunch of developers, we have a great product, and then like the CEO or the executives, like we have one person in sales. It's tough for them to pull off something like that, but it's about making a leap right then and there, or do you want to try something else first? And
it's just as much as you can do, as much as one person can handle, right? And then I think the first step to that would be for a smaller outfit, if you don't have enough cash to be able to afford bringing on like full-time employee sales reps, you're looking at 1099 contractors, or using Upwork to try to either leverage outsourced freelancers at the prospecting, lead generation, or SDR route, which I think is a really valuable track to go. I think there are a lot of great workers out there that are really good at that repetitive process and lead generation and kind of doing the SDR thing. But I do want to get your opinion on I think a big business that's booming right now is companies that are providing like appointment setting or like outsourced sales process. Like they're doing either the BD, the business development, or the kind of contact, sorting and collecting of data, and then just drip feeding it, or having a whole technology platform that like you sign up and you then have to like funnel the data and you have to get it somehow into your CRM so you can act on it. So what has been the experience too with that route, which are these kind of appointment setting companies or like outsourcing that to a business to help you with your sales process?
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, there it is. I feel I get an email every day, at least every day, about it.
Yeah, me too.
And yeah, I'm a sales consultant, so I don't know why they would reach out to me, but it's all automated anyway, so whatever.
It
But
is,
anyway,
yeah.
it's interesting because I know there's good guys out there. There's really good guys out there,
Yeah.
and it's a really good fit for some companies. Uh, the caution there, the issue is that like you're not really, if you put all your eggs into that basket, it's a risky road to go down because you're not really getting much out of it. You're getting, you're don't get me wrong, you're getting leads trickling in every month, and for many people, that's all they want, that's all they need.
Right.
But these companies, sometimes they fly by night. Sometimes they disappear, right? Sometimes they lose important employees and their quality diminishes, whatever, right?
Right.
But you're paying like a monthly amount in order to receive this benefit, but you haven't actually done the work yourself as a company, right? You
Mm-hmm.
haven't actually set it up yourselves so that you have a good process. You're never there's nothing that's going to ever be as valuable as having a process internally that will bring you consistent leads every month. That's much more valuable than having a good outsourced team that can do that for you. It's in the moment it's all the same, but it's the risk associated with that outsourced team that it's and that's just one part of the risk, right? The other part of the risk is that if you have a brand that you're trying to keep a reputation for, and if you have, you can only make one first impression, right? If you have outsourced guys that are not really representing your company in the way that you would,
Mm-hmm.
that's a concern for a lot of companies that they really care about their image and their brand, which they should, right?
Yeah, and
But
especially ticket items related. If it's very small, if you're selling like sunglasses at
Mhm.
$25 a pop, that's your business model. Different if you're trying to attract more enterprise clients or small, medium-sized business accounts, that could be
Yeah.
a lot more revenue. And then your digital reputation, your online presence, right, is
Mhm.
perhaps impacted somewhat.
Yeah, I think it's good for companies to dabble in it and give it a shot, right? I just don't like them putting all of their eggs in that basket. And there's companies that we know that do this and that do a very good job doing it. But the first one
Yeah.
I can think of off the top of my mind, like they work for one of the clients are like Dell, Intel, I think, Oracle,
Mm-hmm.
other clients too that are very very small names, but they work with big names too, and they do a great job, and they'll set maybe 14 appointments per month, but they're going to charge you over 6K a month for those 14 appointments. So if your average value of an order isn't quite high, it's not going to be worth it for you. So
Yeah.
there's other people that are out there that are charging $500 a month for this service. Well, you could guess that you probably get what you pay for there, but it's worth looking
Yeah.
into for some companies, especially those that want additional leads but don't necessarily want to hire anybody else. Like if they know they have a good like account executive or closer, and they know maybe they've got a good prospect too, but hey, we can handle another 20 appointments a month. For them, I say give it a shot because you're not married to that contract. You can cancel it any day or whatever after 3 months or whatever. It's worth seeing if could be a good channel for you. It's just not good to put all your eggs in that basket.
Yeah, I think it should just be a part of your toolbox, right? You're trying
Yeah.
to basically funnel and build your business model around, how are you getting leads from many different sources? 100% agree with that. And I would say that there are some companies, I would say ours as well, would be in that mix is, you really design and really have a very streamlined, effective process, depending on what industry in, the types of leads, if you will, or like, business prospects that you're creating. um, I think you end up getting very laser pointed because you're just servicing so many companies in your niche that you're able to see really what's effective. And usually I would say the companies that are doing kind of that appointment setting, if they can do it right, and if they are, working, let's say with Dell or big companies, right, they actually have a real well-oiled machine at that point. Like they have invested the time and getting all those people, in the right silo so that they all are coherently creating a currency stream of value, right? That they're able to then deliver to their end clients.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
There's definitely people that are very good at doing it, and it's just a matter of finding them.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'd love to, let's see, like what about your daily routine? I'd love to hear either if you want to say it from a sales perspective or like where you're at now. I'd love to hear are there any habits or rituals that you've got that kind of help you tap into your, inner fire, your presence, your ability to influence, like project and influence in your reality?
Yeah, that was a question I was hoping you'd forget to ask. I'm no role model in terms of daily routine. It's not. So I used to have one, but as I think we're talking about in the very, very beginning of the call, I was traveling for a couple of years, right? So I got sick of Chicago. I needed to see the country. Started living in Airbnbs for about a couple months at a time in each city. Like went to Austin, Arizona, Colorado, Washington, out west. The good places.
Yeah.
And I got back from that about 9 months ago and still haven't. I obviously didn't have a routine there because like I'm working in an Airbnb like on a children's like play chest one day and then they got to rework the next day. Like there's no semblance of a routine ever on that trip, right? But it was good because I needed it. I burned out leaving my last job and I needed to refresh somehow, some way. But ever since I got back into Detroit and kind of kicked things into overdrive, I still haven't been able to put in a good daily routine. So now my only daily routine is snoozing a number of times until I can get my ass out of bed. And like I'm not. That's one part of me that's really, really missing. But at the same time, it's kind of why I'm here in the first place. Is like I want to be able to do whatever I want to do on a daily basis, but there's like something in there in this like monkey brain of mine that like is so lazy and just doesn't want to do anything, especially in the morning. And getting him under control is like my number one priority at the moment. So I was like trying to laugh and he said, I go to the gym every morning and then go for a run. I'm like, I would love to switch places with you and be able to do that every day. Because I'm sure like it gives you the best boost you could ever imagine in the morning. And like, I haven't been able to get it done yet. So by all means, if you could tell me what your secret is, I'm all ears.
Well, maybe, you're just you're like the superhero sometimes has an inner enigma, and maybe like that contrast within you is just one of your, it's just something that maybe has been built up over time that, you're just like, hey, you're such a warrior, when it comes to sales. And you're also, you've accomplished so much that now maybe this is a way that you get to reward yourself, right? Because hey man, we're just on this planet, this rock for, a short period of time. Life is not just about, I don't know, making tons of money or, I think there's a side where you always want to be striving and you want to have a driven life, you want to be motivated, but I also think there's kind of like an excessive part of like, constantly like killing yourself to just like, have this onslaught of bravery when, we're we're living in a supernatural world. Like we're talking right now over video. I've got this camera recording right here, right? We're used to being like, you and I, we would be like hunters back in the day, right? We'd be hanging out at camp, joking around, dancing around a campfire, having social time. And instead, like, it's, now we just do a lot of solo, wizardry online and our bodies and our psyches, I think are, I don't know. I think we push each other really hard already all the time.
Yeah. I'm with you on that. I feel like that's more of like my nature is like a hunter-gatherer type, like spend time at campfires. Like there's just nothing that like renews my soul more than like starting a fire at a camp, like in nature or
Yeah.
something. Like it's just there's something about it. Like I don't know if you've ever cooked like this is ridiculous, but like you ever cooked like bacon on a stick before? It's just,
I
just
have
something
not.
like there's just something like natural about it that like gets my blood going. Waking up in the morning and sitting in front of a computer screen, it's not I don't feel natural doing it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's obviously like something that is worthwhile because of the means that it provides. But
Of
I'm not
course.
there anywhere near there yet, and I know that myself. Like I'm still like relatively young. Uh, I haven't accomplished I don't think any of the things that I've really set out to accomplish yet. So, yeah.
Well, I know you're working on big things. I mean, you have already, I mean, you've got your own company that you do issue resolution consulting, right, on the sales process. And you're building a product where you are trying to, bring together an amalgamation, a combining of all of your experience and teaching, right? Because you do this. And sales is not necessarily completely rebuilding the wheel every time. It is very kind of similar across these industries, across different business models, right? So do you want to share a little bit about like that kind of project that you're working on?
Yeah, I mean it's a workshop, I would say, but it's something where we wanted to create. I wanted to create something that was able to help people build the type of sales environment that they need to have, right? And but build it without me and
Mm-hmm.
without having to front a massive consulting bill, because it's really not in the cards for a lot of companies. And
Yeah.
that's what I run into more than anything is people that are super passionate about like their startup or like their idea or whatever it may be, but they don't know how to sell anything. Well, I know how to do that, but I I don't want to have to work with you for 75 hours and send you a bill afterwards just in order for you to start selling. And I don't think everybody needs that. I think that if
Right.
we're able to provide something at a more reasonable price, much more reasonable price, and give them the tools to self-serve that knowledge, tools that I've learned over, whatever, 15 years or whatever, of failing a lot and also succeeding plenty, then that's the goal, right? Is to have
Yeah.
something more of it, like something where you're able to self-serve this knowledge. In some cases, like for instance, like with commission structures, like we've already developed these. I'm sorry, Robert has already developed these spreadsheets that can tell you exactly what commission structure you need to use. So why not
Yeah.
just give that to people who need a commission structure, bundled in with all the other things that they'll need, like figuring out which commission structure is best for them in the first place, let alone modeling it, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
figuring out how to structure your sales team, how to manage them, how to monitor them, like what tech to give them, all of that stuff. It's just like a complete basket of things. And I think the most common thing I hear from people that we work with, like on the very first call, is that like we know that we need to do more in sales, or that we're not doing anything and we need to start doing something.
Mm-hmm.
We know that we need to do a lot of things, but we're completely overwhelmed with the number of things that there are out there, and all of the different strategies and all of the different processes and all the different technologies. And we have no earthly idea what to do because there's too many choices,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And so
Paralysis by complexity out there.
yeah, exactly. So we're trying to boil things down to people so that they're able to really just get the basics in place, a little bit more beyond the basics, but like really you start with a good foundation for the sales team so that it will be efficient and scalable, and it will be successful in time, right? So that's the
Right.
project that I've been working on for right on a year now. I mean, I always kind of wanted to build towards this, but didn't really have enough experience in consulting. I mean, we've only been consulting now for around 3 years. Again, been in sales my whole life, but sales is a little bit different than consulting. Sales is a lot of times doing it for yourself, whereas consulting, you're just trying to explain how other people should do it for them, right? So,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's the project.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Well, I'm looking forward to that being, worked on. And you even kind of gave me a sneak peek at it. So, hopefully I
Yeah,
can just kind of help contribute in some ways and, just give feedback, because I think it's incredibly valuable, and it's the perfect, the whole, we live in a world of course selling. But I think what that is targeting is real value. It's like, hey, I could come in here and with my billing rate or with our company's rate, we would need to bill out, 50 plus hours to really work with all your team, do the surveys, or really analyze everything. Or you could, read this book or kind of take this course, if you will, that breaks it down into sections of priority, right? For you to start from ground zero, if this is where you're at, start with step one, get that knocked out, choose your CRM, right? Or, hire a lead gen person. Boom, that's step one. And then next is, okay, let's improve the CRM, or do you have the budget for marketing funnels? Maybe test out an audience on LinkedIn or Google and then pump some dollars there, see if you can get conversions. How to get one conversion type of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Because even then, like when we're working with clients, I mean, we can't really tell you how to sell it unless we understand it ourselves. And furthermore, we can't really tell you what's wrong unless we understand your company. So a lot of the time is spent just with us learning, which I enjoy personally, but it's not, the client doesn't get all that much out of it, right? So there's already a gap in between what they're paying for and what they're receiving. Like at the end of the day, they get what they need. They get it pays for itself when people work with us on like a full scale engagement. It ends up paying for itself. But for some people, it's just not in the cards at all. So we wanted to provide this so that they already know their product, they already know their company. They're able to read a couple of things and be like, oh wow, we're doing that wrong. We got this part right, So it's I'm hoping that it'll be a big hit, but I'm glad you had a chance to review it and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Thank you for sharing it. So to jump back, I'd love to get back to the bacon on the stick. How do you replenish your energy, or when you're in sales teams or for sales companies, you can either take it however you want, but I'm curious, what replenishes your energy? How do you recharge from, your work day or your work week?
For sure. It's definitely, for me, it's always been nature and the wilderness and whatnot. I don't get to it as much as I need nowadays, but even recently, now that it's been nice, even a stroll through our garden in the backyard, it's just first thing in the morning is just just to get some to reconnect with the world. I'm not really like that that spiritual or anything like that, but when I am, I'm outside, right? And whether it's a couple days camping or hiking or biking or whatever it may be, immediately recharged and ready to go kill it again. But I that's really it. I mean, I always thought meditation was kind of a superpower for sales reps. I didn't do it nearly as much as I should have when I was in sales, when I was a sales rep specifically. Nowadays it's great, but it's still there's a feeling that I get when I'm surrounded by trees, out in the middle of nowhere or whatever, that I can't replicate anywhere else.
Yeah, no, I love that. Love the wilderness, and meditation is, I think, a big key for me. I do it just for about anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes right as soon as I wake up. It's something that I should do more of too, probably, right? We're just kind of so much in the hustle and bustle, and just the whole day kind of goes flying. But I would like to jump to personal philosophy around sales, right? Because I think meditation does help some sales reps either throughout the day, intermittently taking a moment, taking a breathe. But when you're in the sales process, can you share kind of some principles or your personal philosophy of how to conduct that sales call, how to really come with full confidence? Because I'm sure, confidence obviously, but how do you really confidently sell? And your best recommendations for company leaders or their sales reps to create more conversions?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a good question. I mean, I think more than anything, I don't like the classic sales mindset of, I'm trying to make a sale. I'm trying to convince them of something. They're, trying to keep their wallet in their pants. They're trying to, keep their budget, all of that. It's an adversarial face off, from the very beginning. And you need to do everything in your power to stop that from happening. Because the moment you walk in and you have that attitude of, I'm going to try to sell somebody on something,
Yeah.
instinctively they're going to have a reaction to put their guard up, to hoist those red flags, and to fight you, right? So whether or not they think they're doing it or they realize they're doing it or not, it's what people do. It's human psychology. If someone's going to
So
try
it's
to
like a
push you in one
frame
direction,
almost. Is that what you're saying? Like you have
yeah,
this frame of a adversarial mindset of like, I need to somehow close them and they're going to resist me. That's a
exactly.
subtle belief system that's kind of operating that you're acting on.
Exactly. Well, if you go into a call thinking
Yeah.
that you need to convince somebody of something, they're going to go into that call. They're going to spot that immediately, and they're gonna reflect it. And the way that
Yeah.
they're going to reflect it is they're going to push back on you. So if you push on them,
Agreed.
they push back on you. Obviously, there's exceptions here and there, but this
Hmm.
is this is the most powerful thing that I can say in terms of sales is removing that mindset and not being about that, but being about actually benefiting the customer and actually finding if there's a mutual fit here or not, right? And that more than anything is gets once that paradigm shift occurs, like when we do like coaching with clients, immediately there's a boost immediately,
Hmm.
because it's not something that I could just say and you realize, oh, that makes sense, and then the next day it happens. It doesn't work. It's more of a longer process like that, because there's different things that we've learned over the years of doing this that you have to unlearn, right? Just different ways to go about it. But that's kind of like, for a long time, that's kind of how I always was in the first place. Like it wasn't really worth, since I didn't really talk much about it yet, but like one of the in logistics, the company I was working for went from being a very efficient, good company to something that wasn't what it used to be, right? And so I immediately stopped wanting to deal with issues and stopped wanting to sell something that might not be a perfect fit for the customer, right? So I
Hmm.
kind of learned it on accident, but the more you can understand, or the more that you can really go into a call thinking that I only want to work with this person if it's a very good fit for them, and I'm not afraid to tell them like the honest to God truth about what I feel, right? So this is kind of
Yeah.
like taps into like that challenger model where we're challenging to some extent
Are we really a
the
good fit? Like, I need to
yeah,
understand your business model, your
right,
service and product. Like, do you have all of your ducks in a row? Or am I getting into something where I might be able to provide a service, but if your, system is all hogwashed, then I mean my
right,
service really, you're gonna look at my service like we're not doing the service. We're not providing
exactly.
the solution.
Exactly, because a lot of like buyers nowadays, like they'll go into these conversations knowing what they want to get out of it, but when humans communicate, things don't always come out properly. Some things get lost in translation. So as a sales rep, you're kind of like a detective trying to figure out like what is it that you're really trying to solve here, and what are your like what's your demeanor towards that? Like what's your what preconceived notions do you have? What misconceptions might you have about what we do or how we might solve the problem for you? Like on any sales
Yeah.
call, just as a rule of thumb, if you can do maybe 10% of the talking, that's great. No more. 10-20% of the talking. I don't want to talk about my company at all, my product at all, my service at all. Like, yeah, it's going to happen. They're going to ask me questions. I'm going to offer some things up here and there. It's going to happen. It's not like we're going to not talk about it. But the whole
Right.
time, I want to be talking about them. Like, what's going on with you? What problem are you trying to solve? Am I really going to be the best fit for this? And I'm the hardest at judging that. So at the end of the call, if I really do think it's going to be a good fit, you're probably going to think that too, because we've ironed enough things out that it is starting to seem like that, right? But I'm also not afraid to tell people, hey, listen, this doesn't sound like a good fit. I would recommend that, or maybe it is, but go shop around and make sure that you find like the right person for you, because you really got to like who you're going to work with if you're going to do like consulting, for instance, right? Uh,
Absolutely.
so it and to be honest, half the time you say that, somebody says, honestly, we've decided we want to work with you, right? Like it,
Yeah, you're
yeah,
being very authentic, and you're also another thing that I try to do is put all the cards out there. Really share like what makes us most effective. What are we doing?
mm-hmm.
And if I can understand how is your process? Do you know about these automation tools? Are you running this stack? And they're like, we've never heard of this. I'm like, well, this is a part of what makes us successful. We
Right.
include this as a part of our stack. This is how we run our business model. This is why we produce results for our clients. And I think when you could just be, you actually stated the challenger, right? You almost want to come off. There's a book called, I think, the Challenger Sale.
Yeah, good book.
And I read that book, and it was really the people who sold the best almost took the role of being the advisor to them.
Absolutely.
And even if like, hey, if I can just solve your problem on this call and you can run off and do it yourself, then, go do it. But I'm happy just to show you that like, I'm aware of the industry. I'm aware of this service or product that we're both kind of communicating about. And I'm able to provide that expertise, and if anything, maybe even give you some value, immediate value. And I want to say, like, when we spoke, it felt like that. It felt that I was really speaking with someone who was genuine and was very forthright with, you could do these things. But when you do that, then you kind of, like even this call right here, right? We've spoken about at length a lot about sales. But if someone were to reach out to you after this, at your company, they might have gotten some nuggets that you have as a part of your consulting. But really, it's getting either one-on-one or getting really to answer all of your questions and really receive the full package. That I think comes when you're just genuine and upfront with people.
Exactly. And you get, you really, if you spend all your time qualifying, like you end up bringing on better customers in the first place, and you spend less time dealing with nonsense from people that just weren't a good fit to begin with. For a lot of sales reps, like that, there's kind of a disconnect there because they don't have to deal with it. Like they'll sign a customer and then they go over to account manager or whatever. So like I get it, but it's really like there's understanding this concept, but then there's really, really, really believing in it. And when people are able to really, really believe in it and get it and fully embody it, it changes sales. It's no longer this like adversarial predatory thing. Like it's more of like you're like a help desk that gets paid on commission or whatever, right? Like the more you understand about the industry and your clients and the people that you're trying to help, and the better you're able to just help them while on a call, the better you'll do in sales. But you really have to get all of that. You can't just be like that's why it's difficult to step into a sales role and be successful in some of these more complex industries, is because if you don't know what the hell you're talking about, you're not going to be able to help them anyway. Like people can tell when you're being like fed cues and fed lines from like commercial teaching or whatever it may be. But if you really truly understand the problem and you understand how to fix it, and you're really able to help give this professional advice to people, they'll believe you, and they'll probably want to work with you if they deem it to be a good fit, right? But you end up spending a lot less time on people that aren't going to be a good fit, because we go back to that same thing about time and money. Like if you don't qualify somebody properly in the first call, you end up sending 4 or 5 calls with them. How many hours did you just waste because you had happy years in the beginning and didn't want to face the facts and say, hey, we shouldn't be working with these people. They're not ready to buy yet, or this is not a good fit for them, right? So it helps every facet of sales if you're really able to position yourself that way.
And then I would just like to add, I think that's a critical piece of information that I express and continuously with my team, is the importance of just acknowledging the real good prospects and placing more value on, yes, we could, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, but there's also there's a time debt that you end up paying by taking all these extra shots that are kind of like, oh yeah, we're just going to, happy years, like you said, like, oh yeah, I just want to try to get as much of a win as possible. You end up taking the time of the next person in line. Maybe it's the account, executive that now has to come up on the call. And if he doesn't spot it, then it's the account manager or the contract team that needs to send the contract. Or there's all these other people that end up jumping into the supply chain. When you're on the front end qualifying somebody, you're really doing a massive value add or a disservice if you're not qualifying properly, because you're really trying to capture those, what are we talking? I mean, 65, 70% plus. If you had to say on a scale of 100% win rate or 0% win rate or 100%, you want to accept prospects or clients that are at least kind of like in, what would you say? Like, I mean, 60% 50% chance win, or like, or I guess it depends on your model. It depends on what your revenue projection are from each client or prospect. But there is some number there that says, hey, if it's not the right fit, let's not risk it. Let's not like and keep investing if we can qualify somebody up front.
Yeah, it's a hard thing to do as a sales rep, that, you know, when you just want to earn commission, right? Because that's kind of what people are just seeing dollar signs and whatnot. But it's a lot easier, like, as a business owner, right? When you're the one that has to deal with the problem, and, you know, if somebody that's doing account management as well. But this whole, like, going for the no thing. I mean, it works because again, all the reasons we just stated. You don't want to work with somebody who doesn't really want to work with you. Like, we're not in this business to just try to convince people. Like, people use the salesperson term in a derogatory manner all the time, because, you know, they're used to dealing with, like, car salespeople and insurance salesmen and whatnot. And, like, that's not who we are. That's not what sales is to actual don't And when you're able to do it properly, man, it feels so good, because so few people, like, they don't get that experience nowadays. You can buy a lot of things online. Like, you can make thousands and thousands of dollar purchases online just clicking a button. You can buy diamonds online. Like, you could do anything online, right? You could do anything online. So you're not dealing with sales reps that often. When you are, it's usually like in a real retail setting when they're just not good at sales. So when we're able to go in there and do good with sales, we're able to completely change the game, right? And going back to the Challenger sale, I mean, what I think they found was that customer loyalty, 57% of it was not from the price tag. It was not from the customer service. It's not from the brand itself, nor the product or anything. It's from the sales process itself. The one-on-one interactions that a buyer has with the sales rep, that more than anything leads to their loyalty towards your company. And the reason for that is because if you're able to do things that well from the sales standpoint and make sure that somebody is that much of a good fit and absolutely selecting the perfect product and perfect solution for them, and that it's going to be deployed perfectly, nothing slips through the cracks. If you do that perfectly, it doesn't really even matter that much what happens afterwards. They have the utmost confidence that you're going to be that polished once they become a customer, right? And it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy on the sale on your end too. If you're that good at figuring out exactly what the sales process needs to handle, you're going to be that good at deploying it too, whatever the solution might be. So it's sales, like, it's evolved into something that it can. There's people that, like some of my clients that we've done coaching with, or like myself, for instance, we're not recognizable from the guy you see, like, at the Ford dealership or whatever. So I guess that is you know, something.
Man, no, I 100% value and agree with that. I really think that people, when they feel heard and when they connect with other people who are just doing the right job or doing it good, you know, you just feel a sense of quality assurance from that process. And just, you know, tip the hats to anybody listening that's in sales. Like, you know, just give yourself a pat on the back, man. I think, you know, you represent the brand, you represent a company, and you really have. From this statistic, is that from the Challenger sale? That Wow. So I mean, that's definitely probably a really well checked statistic.
Yeah, well, it was the largest sales study of all time, actually.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, they're not necessarily interviewing, like, startups and those types.
Yeah.
They're interviewing more like mid-sized and enterprise-sized businesses, but they interviewed thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of people and compiled all of the responses, and they also did it at a weird time too. They did it after the financial crisis, 2008. So sales, getting money out of people was a lot tougher back then, right? A lot tougher than it is, like, in a beautiful, like, market, right? So it was a little bit more difficult to get people to admit to, you know, seeing value or whatever it may be. So yeah, I mean, it's a great book. I recommend it to anybody. I mean, even if you're not in sales, like, it helps explain, like, sort of like how that psychology of persuasion works for when you're in these sales environments and whatnot.
Yeah, absolutely. I advocate for that too. I read that book. Really good one.
Mhm.
Where do you see like sales in the future? What I'm noticing is I think there's a big drive for data and machine learning, which is just making better, faster recommendations for people that can provide input data, so they're able to get correlated. If you can kind of take a pulse on, how do you see the sales function 5, 10, or 20 years like going in the future with all of the advent of technology, which is making it which was making the sales process so much more effective and handling a lot of that repetitive work.
For sure. Yeah, it's interesting. It depends on the industry a lot. Like for instance, like in logistics, like sales reps are going to be less needed as you're able to get computers to do a lot more, right? And then as I was talking about earlier too, when it comes to how many things you can buy online nowadays, like without a sales rep,
Yeah.
the need for sales reps is declining. It's always going to be something that you're going to need in certain companies, right? But you don't need a sales rep to buy widgets, here and there, right? Like so I think what we're going to see is more of the digitization of sales reps and how you're able to get somebody who's sales minded, but then plug that into a website buying situation or do a lot more with one person or two people. Like some of the technologies that we've talked about today alone, like one person's able to turn into 3 or 4 with them, right? That's going to keep expanding and expanding and expanding. Some of the sales enablement platforms out there that are pretty much you're just staring at your screen and it's just telling you exactly what to do while you're on a call, like it's playbooks. It's becoming very, very easy if you're approaching sales the proper way as an organization to do more sales with less people and to train and coach better, all on this the same technology, right? So it's interesting to see where it'll go and how much we're actually going to be using just like outbound sales reps, right? But there's always going to be a need for it. There's always, I mean, at least in our lifetime, there's always going to be a need for sales reps to exist and make these phone calls and to take phone calls and all of that. But you're going to need to get more out of each phone call, and you're going to need to be able to, but you're also going to be able to do more too. So it's kind of a roundabout answer, but really it's just with technology. I mean, it's just, you're able to just become like, you've got 6 hands all of a sudden. You've got a script on one page. It's telling you exactly what to say. And you click this button. It's telling you exactly what information you need to get from somebody. And, they say this objection, the technology, like you're making the call to your CRM. The CRM hears that they said this objection and pops up a message and with the perfect objection response. Like, this stuff is crazy. This stuff exists. I mean, it's been around for a couple of years now. It's getting into the hands of commoners like you and I nowadays. Like, it's just because of the budget or the price is declining and it's becoming a little bit more affordable and whatnot. But it's just, who knows where we're gonna be. But it's going to be very technology enabled, that's for sure.
Yeah. So knowing technology, connecting with these systems, doing real systems engineering within your own company, using Zapier, right? Doing your evaluation. If I would recommend HubSpot. That's what we use. I think it is a great platform. Yeah. Salesforce, I think, is also up there. So they're both very similar. But yeah, I totally echo that. So if you can, we just kind of did a little bit of a future proof of like where sales is going. What about, can you share any like advice maybe that you would look back on to like your 21-year-old self or just advice in general that you would give on just like life or like, the things and lessons that you've learned along the way?
20-year-old self would probably be to not take everything so seriously. That was a big problem for me for quite some time. Just kind of living and dying by commission checks. It's difficult to not have your blood pressure spike when something goes wrong. That I legitimately feel as if I took a couple of years off my life in my 20s by just living and dying by the daily swings of sales. That's probably it, man. I mean, there's many other things that I would like to say to my 20-year-old self. Not all of them appropriate, but I like that is I think it's almost like a kind of a cliche thing, but at the same time, like with sales, it is a very big deal. Like if you invest too much into it, not that you shouldn't be 100% there, but
Yeah.
if you invest too much into every single sale, you're not gonna have a good time. You're just not. Like not everybody's gonna respond logically. You're not gonna win every deal you should have won. Sometimes you're gonna have people on your own team or in your own company that end up screwing up deals for you and costing you a lot of money, even though you did everything perfectly. And tough shit like that. That's just it's got to be the way you look at it, or else it's the burnout is very real. It's going to happen, and yeah, it's a lot different once you had serious fallout from that type of stuff. Um, Compared to like what a sales rep is like when they're young and dumb and just they just want to conquer the world, right? So
Right. No, it's a huge advocate. I think a lot of people have asked that question too. It's so resounding. Don't take things too seriously.
yeah,
I even did a veteran honor flight in DC. So some veterans from the Vietnam War flew in from Oshkosh, Wisconsin, and we took them out. We went all the way, to all the different sites and had a great day. And at the end of it, I did ask that question to one of the senior guys that I was just responsible for, and he said the same thing. It's just like, don't take life so seriously, and then laugh more.
yeah,
That was a big one. Just laugh more.
yeah, for sure. That's a good one too. I mean, it like there's just so much more to
Mm-hmm.
life than everything that's happening on your computer screen. If I would have told myself like day one to just never get on social media, that would have also been some good advice. Not that I'm very big into it, but every moment I spend on there is a moment too long and a moment in which my mood ends up going in the opposite direction of where I want it to be going. Um,
Yeah.
but it's like you kind of have to live and learn. You can't just tell this stuff to people. In fact, like I'm sure my parents definitely told me all of these things. That doesn't mean you're willing to listen and that you're willing to do it, right? Like that's what I was
Yeah.
kind of saying about like teaching in sales. Like you can't learn much from positive things. You need to learn from the negative things, from the failures, from the pain, and all of that. Like that's where learning happens, right? So, I I'm I personally like to look back and um, I'm appreciative of all of the BS that's been thrown my way. Like every single thing. I mean, I like when I was like in high school, I got rejected from Michigan State, which is like it's a good school, but it's like everybody went to Michigan State. I mean, I'm like in my
Yeah.
high school, maybe 300 people went to MSU. A couple hundred went to U of M. I knew I was never going to be smart enough to go to U of M, but I thought Michigan State that won't be a problem. Got rejected from Michigan State, so I framed it. Like I framed that
Yeah.
rejection letter, and I wanted to. I looked at it every day, just whenever I needed a little bit more gas in the tank, and just look at it, and that stuff drives me, man. That negative stuff really drives me. So when I look back and like I've had a really easy life. Like it's been a very very good. Like I mean, the time that I was born, the place that I was born, like I don't have anything to complain about in the first place. But if I was to
Yeah.
complain, then I would say that all those things, like I'm glad that they've happened, and I welcome more of them, right? Because like I'm not getting anywhere anywhere else positive unless more bad stuff keeps happening. It's just I don't learn much from positive stuff, and maybe a little bit here and there, but the best stuff comes from adversity, obstacles, and figuring out a way around them.
Yeah. Wow. I love it, man. I love it. Thank you for sharing that. And to add to it, I think in my life, just the disapproval or proving people wrong or just overcoming,
Yeah,
I think either a fear or overcoming a limitation of who you could be
yeah,
is were just really big frames, really big things in my life that provided a power source and got me through a lot of challenges or made me help me make that one extra call. And I would say that too is really wild. When I was there's something about when you're cold calling that if you can just do one more or trick
hmm
yourself into doing three more, there have been a number of deals that have actually surfaced just because like, oh yeah, I thought I was done for the day, but I was like, you know what? Let me just knock out a couple more, just like one more.
Yeah.
And it actually turns, it's almost like reality. It's like your subconscious mind is almost ready to kind of steer you off. It's like the Tony Robbins principle. Like you just have to do like, 0.05% more and you're like there. And you would have hit a different narrative of reality. You would have invoked a different element just by doing just one little bit more.
Yeah, for sure. Like, and it's true. And that's like another, like from like a sales manager perspective, like if you can get to the bottom of that data, it's very important. Like I think in some other roles that I've been in, like we've been able to calculate how much you're making per phone call, how much you're making per minute. And man, there's some motivational emails you can send at the end of the day as it's getting to like 2-3 p.m. People are getting tired. Like, hey, so you want to make 5 more phone calls and you'll make $100 more. Like it's easy to look at it as like, why even bother? But if you could remind yourself to finish strong, it does make a big impact at the end of the day, like especially on your bottom line. What did you mentioned like some limitations of yourself? What did you mean by that?
So limitations were, not being smart enough or having enough experience to start a company. I think those are some challenges that I went through initially. Feeling overwhelmed with technology, overwhelmed with everything that goes into starting a company, overwhelmed with basically not making any money for like an entire year, living at home with mom. Pretty tough. And then the falling out of having a business partner and I separate, and then just this that was the staring into like the abyss type of experience. It was like, okay, I'm now on my own. I could just fumble and like let the company go. But I was somehow able to really just say like do or die. And it had some very vivid like emotional, I want to say like very powerful visualizations of like not giving up and like really pushing myself, almost like destroying or killing like a part of myself that was afraid or like giving up and saying like, no, I'm going to take a stand. I am going to lead forward. And I was able to, and that led me to, now having a more successful company where, we're just doing a lot better than we were when we were by myself. So those are some limiting beliefs.
Yeah, I find that like the imposter syndrome does rear its ugly head every once in a while. I think I found out pretty quickly in like in the self-employed life and entrepreneurship, I guess you definitely don't need to be that smart. So, plenty of people out there that are running great companies that are they're not fully there, but they've got something else to them, which is like a drive that's like just turned on to 11 or something, right? So it's a matter of like figuring out what's the proper formula for you, right? And I think a lot of people like their biggest hang up is they're like, especially for me, like I know a ton of sales reps that are pretty much a slave to their commission check. They can't leave, or else they're going to start at another company at like a base salary of like 60K or 40K or whatever, right? So they're a slave to the commission check. They don't like what they do, and they can't quit because there goes the money, right? So, I think like what a lot of people like have like holding them back is that they just don't think they'll be any good at it. They don't know what to do. And I've had these conversations with people before that's like, I don't know what to do with my life. It's like, just start freelancing or just start a company, just do whatever, anything. Like, well, I don't know how to do that. It's like, guess what? I have no clue either.
You don't. You just start and get better every day.
You just have to start, right? And I think a lot of people look at like look at anybody that's quits, starts their own business, or like you or me or whatever, and then think we like it's easy. It's not. I don't know about you, but every day is very, very difficult. Like trying to figure out what to do. It was so much easier when I had like a boss telling me what to do. Are you kidding me? I was so much easier. Like I almost would love to have that again. That would just know exactly what to do all day long. I wouldn't have to have any regret or like worry about doing the wrong thing. Like it would just be easy, right? It's not
Yeah.
it's not easy to do this, but there's a reward at the end of the day for building something, and I think that's at least why I do it. But yeah,
Yeah.
at no point has it ever been easy, and I don't really expect that it will be anytime soon. But it's character building, I suppose.
It is. And it's just it's a subtle improvements. And I would say the biggest difference from like, if you're just starting a company versus who you will be in 2 or 3 years is you're always trying to make investments of your time into building things that can be reused. Be that a contract template. And I've reworked our contract template many times. I've had multiple attorneys look at it. And now it's at the point where boom, it covers all the bases and I can just send it out and I know it answers everything that we need for, just protection for us, protection for our clients, that we're on an equal footing. It's very equal. And that's an investment of time that takes time. I had to spend a lot of hours doing that. The CRM, getting the CRM equipped with all the different properties that you need, all the automation workflows to be able to funnel through your conversions, how you move people every 3 or 4 months for following up with people. Hiring team members, investing in people, just choosing which team members, and then them getting up to speed, them really getting into like being a part of your company ethos, a part of your team, and like building them to become leaders of your company as your company grows. So all those things, that's the big difference I would say, is all the systems engineering and the process that comes just with time. But it still is always a challenge. I still have my paper book right here, and I just scribble. On it every day, just kind of like, hey, what are my top things that I want to get done? That helps me because at least it puts it into reality and I'm able to look at it. And many people talk about doing it. It doesn't need to be fancy. I even got this like really big high performer booklet. I'm so busy. There's no way I'm filling this out on a daily basis. Like
Right.
it's a great thing, and maybe in the beginning, like you could use that, but it's just too much, man. I just don't like. I don't have enough time to do this. I crank out so much work, and I'm always kind of jumping from tasks and learning how to delegate too. When to delegate some things, when not to. What are things that I need to take over?
Yeah, I could use a lesson in that myself. We were talking about it the other day. Like it's not an easy thing to do, especially when like you guys are much bigger than what we are right now, and that's like I need that more than anything. Just being able to, because like for me, all I care about is quality, and I'm just way too much of a perfectionist when it comes to that, and I haven't been able to bring on somebody that I trust and that, I see the right thing inside them and who I know I can just put on a call with clients and who's going to do a perfect job. Right. So that's something I've been trying to learn. I've tried those types of like workbooks before. I fell off pretty quickly. I like the notebook in general, but sometimes they become more work than they should be. But keeping things in priority is really what it's all about, right? And looking at these tasks that you like over 30 days, 60 days, 90 days that you want to complete, and actually looking at them on a daily basis and pushing towards them is important. But like then there's those other things like delegating that I just kind of leave off and one day
one day I'll find the right person. I was very fortunate. I think some of the team. I mean, the team members of all came to Cybergen and just brought like really unique capabilities and I think a lot of drive. So being this really high growth tech company, I think one galvanizes people. Like we're really trying to not just be a $50 million, $100 million company. We want to be like up there with the big dogs. That's always been my dream. Change the world. I want to really change the world. I want to be like, it's always been a role model, Elon Musk, for the fact of being able to build something that actually changes like the fabric of reality. And he's doing it on another level. Huge kudos to what he's doing. And I just want to find my way of being able to contribute to the world and just help make the world a better place, help improve the efficiency of it. And it's the Buckminster Fuller quote, which is like, in order to change a system, you have to create an entirely new system. This has been my idea for my company. So you have to create an entirely new system that makes the old system obsolete.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I'm sure that's easier done than said, right?
Oh yeah. It's a great quote, and then lots of days and months and years go into it, and we're still building our platform, and we're just now getting into the machine learning track, and we've got still that machine learning engineer scientist joining our team. The whole plan, we have already written out the entire machine learning process of what kind of this is going to look like, the iterations of how do you get like a full end-to-end spectrum, bare bones, minimal valuable kind of product working, and kind of all the mechanisms of this new platform for anonymized career search, where the data is in control of engineers or the IT professionals in the cleared space, because that's our niche that we're in. So we're really trying to just tackle something from our niche of a niche, and then to expand down IT, but really address just making a better system that makes the old system obsolete. It's not easy, and it takes a lot of just daredevil type of thinking, and just being willing to say, I'm going to try it. But we're going to do it.
It's easier to wake up in the morning knowing that you're building something that is going to make an immediate change, right? Like it's difficult, for instance, like to work if you're working in like a commoditized industry and just keeping up with the Joneses. Like it's work, and that's okay. Like I know that we might not be put on this earth to just work and sit in front of computers. It's work, whatever. You got to get it done, which is what our society does. But when you're building something that's going to make a difference and make a change, and it's more of a higher power than just, hey, this will help us compete. This will help us, win 2% more customers than competitor X or competitor Y. Like it's a different type of drive. Like, and I'm not like, what we're building isn't quite the same thing in terms of like machine learning and technology, but it is like a little bit different than what you're able to get from most sales consultants nowadays. And it does provide, like, get you all warm and fuzzy a little bit when you start working on it and you start making progress on it, because you're like, damn, like I wish I had this, or like I know a million people that, or a handful of people that I know would need this right now, right. So it is like a lot more enjoyable, I think, when you're working on something that's a bigger and better than the next, and almost industry or game changing too. I mean, that's like that. Yeah, that's huge.
And you're synthesizing like a great teacher would, your life experience, so you're almost in some way writing a book, right? In some way.
Yeah. And that's what I was like, your first comment, like, oh, well, this is a little bit longer than I thought it might be.
Yeah. So there's just a whole bunch of insights that you're recording, and the way you can structure it, and just, you've already created so much impact, right? I mean, like, how great does it feel to be able to take a company and all their sales reps, like, you've changed the DNA of people. You've changed how the energy, right? Like the chemistry of a team works together, the relationship with the team and the management or the leadership, right? And that's translatable to everyone. I think that's just what we're trying to do. Like it's, we have some technology that's being built, but what we're doing is the same thing. We're trying to enact like an effect in the world, which helps people save the time that they have so that they can do more with less. And, ultimately there may come a point where we're not all just working 8 hours a day, or, maybe we get to 6 hour a day work weeks. And because as things get more automated, I think we're going to have more people doing either designing and developing a technology, and things will just be a lot more like, I don't know, I don't think people necessarily realize how crazy the VR switch is going to be, or the brain computer chip interface that like Elon Musk is working with Neuralink. We're right now just by ourselves. I'm by myself in my room looking at a computer, and this is how I operate. But soon we'll be able to like put on the VR goggles and go. I don't know. Have you ever done VR chat? Have you ever seen VR chat?
Not chat. I've done the goggles before, like,
okay,
but not. It was, I don't even know what I was doing. Yeah.
So if you had that goggle experience, imagine it was as real as this experience. Like it looks high fidelity, and you're able to just hop into like worlds, and you're able to interact with people, either AR or VR. I think communicating with meetings, like right now, all of our meetings we're all just looking at a box. But soon it'll be, we have this headset on and then we're tapped in. Next, it'll be just a chip in our brain and we'll be able to just go straight to the Skype room or the VR world. And there'll be many instances of this being available. And you'll be able to create unbelievable contextual experiences. Like the emotional wavelength, I think, is just going to get like widened so deep. And then we're going to be a society that's spacefaring, like we're going to Mars. There's going to be a lot of space manufacturing. I know that Jeff Bezos is working on that giant spaceship station outside of low Earth orbit, so that we'll have that as like a backup plan if something happens to the Earth, or just a place where you're able to go, and all the entrepreneurship. I don't know how I got on this, man, but I just think the future and like everything that we're working towards enacting change, like that's it. We are helping you're helping all those companies today improve their sales process and model. And then all the people that affects down the line to do more with less, right? And to be more creative and to have more fun. And, you know, ultimately to just spread abundance, which is kind of what the world is going through. Like it's a blanket of, you know, new tech. It's a blanket of other countries are coming online. And like, there's so many people that are, you know, getting on YouTube and all these different marketing channels now and learning how to start their business. I mean, I think the world is in like a really great place.
Yeah, it's an exciting time. I mean, I think throughout our history, humans have always been limited by the technology that was available at that time. But for the first time in human history, it's not the case. You know, you're still to some extent limited by the technology, but if you wanted to improve upon it, you probably could. Like, no matter who you are, if you really were dedicated to not being held back by your current technology, you could figure out a way to do it. You know, it's like the possibilities right now are endless, and it's fun to be involved with it. You know, to some extent, even if it's, you know, saving the world through sales, right? Like it's fun to be involved with the cutting edge and just innovative technology in any way, shape, or form. It's just always I geek out. Like, it's just exciting to see stuff that, like, damn, I didn't know that was possible yesterday. Like, I love those moments.
Living in the future.
We've definitely bonded over technology before, and geeked out about like what you can do on these different apps. I mean, it's just like a new one pops up every single day. And you spend I don't know, a couple hours a day on research. My company does, and it's just like we're barely keeping our heads above water. Like, there's just too many new things every single day. And then the existing products, they have new features every single day. I mean, it's insane. But it's awesome. It's personally, my favorite part of the job is just being involved with all that, and like just seeing how quickly we're progressing. Like, you know, it's easy to worry about things like you know, like climate change and you know, how we're going to feed everybody and all that. But the more in touch you are with like how quickly technology is advancing, you get a lot less concerned about that. I think Elon Musk was talking about it the other day, like about climate change. Are you scared about it? He's like, no, we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
I don't know if
we have legion. I haven't heard that, but we have legions of scientists, right? And all the new kids that are being born that are like geeking out with all the access to information and knowledge. Yeah. Oh yeah,
it's gonna be cool, man. A little scary too, but for the most part, it'll be weird.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Man, dude, so we've covered a lot. I want to give you just a shout out for a moment, Spencer. If you want to share, like, if people were to reach out to you, I'll have some of your information down below to contact Spencer and his company, IRC. Do you want to mention anything about that, or how people can contact you, maybe?
Just shoot me an email. I'm just a guy. You know, we'll talk about it, we'll figure something out. You know, I love to qualify, make sure it'll be a good fit. But no, at the end of the day, I mean, you can't be too small, you can't be too big. We really just like to help people figure out how to sell well. And that's really all it boils down to is can you sell better than you did last month? Can you sell more? Can you have better conversion rates? Can you spend less time selling to the same amount of people? That's really it, you know. And if you're a small company, if you're not even a company at all, if you're a big company, enterprise company, it doesn't matter. We worked with them all. And just, I don't know, it's what I live for. I love doing it. So if you need any help feel free to reach out. Send me an email anytime.
Awesome. Cool. Yeah, I'll have the email there in the link
Thanks.
below. So, man, Spencer, appreciate you for coming on the show and just having this conversation with me.
It's been great. Thank you for having me, and definitely learned a lot from you as well. And yeah, it's been fun. It's been very enjoyable.
Hell yeah.
some of the weather up north now.
Hey, we'll try, man. We'll try. Or just come down to visit Florida, you know? I mean, like, Michigan sounds pretty cold.
Hey, I might mess around and do that one day. I'll give you a call.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Cool.